And Corey, let's press us in with Enter Rejoice. And I have to spotlight you. You got it. Good.
Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Don't be afraid of some change.
Okay, what happened? Am I still there? Oh, there we go. All right. Sorry, I couldn't see me there for a minute. I got panicked and I thought maybe I accidentally hit the wrong button. The lighting of the chalice is a ritual that unites Unitarian Universalists everywhere, even when we are in our homes and separated from one another. It calls us together at this time as we gather in sacred community, even though we are online. The flaming chalice originally was a secret symbol used to signify a place of safety for many who were persecuted during World War II. That symbol of hope and freedom holds new significance during these challenging days. As I light the flame, you might be lighting your own chalice where you are. We invite you to do so. Join me in reciting the affirmation, signifying our sacred gathering this morning. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our aspiration, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Kay Azar has opening words for us this morning. Hang on a second, Kay, until you can see yourself. Okay, and now I need to unmute you.
I did.
Oh, okay, go.
Good morning. I'm Kay Azar, the worship associate this morning, and our opening words are from a poem, Pandemic by Lynn Unger. Dr. Lynn Unger is a minister for lifespan learning and the editor of Quest for the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Larger Fellowship. What if you thought of it as the Jews considered the Sabbath, the most sacred of times? Cease from travel, cease from buying and selling. Give up just for now on trying to make the world different than it is. Sing, pray, touch only those to whom you commit your life. Center down, and when your body has become still, reach out with your heart. Know that we are connected in ways that are terrifying and beautiful. You can hardly deny it now. Know that our lives are in one another's hands. Surely that has become clear. Do not reach out your hands, reach out your heart, reach out your words, reach out the tendrils of compassion that move invisibly where we cannot touch. Promise this world your love, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, as long as we all shall live.
Very good. Thank you so much, Kay. Okay. Our hymn that we want to share this morning is called When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. And it really has special significance for this time and for our theme this morning of transcendent presence. So, Corey, go ahead and do that, please.
Okay. trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind. And we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with an open mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. Then your heart is in a holy place. Yes, your heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy
Perfect. Thank you so much. Um, I've had several people ask about taking a moment of silence, which I think is a really good idea. And so we're going to do that at this time. And it's very different than when we're together here in the sanctuary and we can have silence together. We can get up and drop stones in a bowl of water and enjoy each other in that way. But what I'd like to invite you to do is to have a moment of silence there where you are. If you're close to a window, look out at trees, at nature, whatever you might be able to see that helps you center. This will be a moment for you to take a deep breath or several deep breaths and to let go of whatever stress is on your shoulders, the stress of our time of being shut in, of not seeing each other, not seeing the people that you love, not being able to go the places that you typically like to visit, the music, the restaurants, the shopping, and all of that. So after a minute, we're going to play a new video that some members of the choir have put together, Spirit of Life, that will play in 1 minute after we have a moment of silence. So I invite you to sit silently now, enjoy the view out your window, and when you hear Spirit of Life, we'll come back together. I would like to thank the members of the choir who worked really hard on that. And Linda Himes has, excuse me, Linda Himes has learned some new technology, which has been really cool, and they're going to work on some other songs. So I'm looking forward to that. There's all kinds of new technology or technology that's existed for a long time that's available to us now, and that, you know, we don't have anything else to do, so why not learn how it works? So thank you so much, Linda, and the other choir members for working on that. Just a reminder about the offering. I should have a basket up here and like hold the basket up when I talk about the offering. Um, we are still accepting your pledges and other donations. You can mail in a check. Just put it in the regular snail mail. We'll give the post service something to do, and hopefully one less reason for Trump to not fund the post office so that we can have mail-in ballots at election time. That was a little political aside. And also, if you go to our webpage, you'll see that we also now have Venmo set up. If you know what Venmo is, then that's something that you might like to use. It's an electronic app on a smartphone. If you haven't used it, you don't know what it is, it might be something you could look up and learn. And we're also still working to set up PayPal as an electronic option as well. So with any of those, you can designate where you'd like your check to go, whether it's for your pledge, to the general fund, to the minister's discretionary fund, to something else that we might have. Coming up in a couple weeks for May, we will have something different for Second Helping. So just keep those things in mind, and I do really very much appreciate it. We're starting a new sermon series today. You might remember back in the winter, we did the 7 principles and applied them to our life, applied them to the 2020 election cycle, and how our principles guide us as we live and as we relate to others, and what that means for politics and for the election. I now want to go into a series on our 6 sources and how our 6 sources provide guidance and comfort. The sources come to us from what's called the living tradition of Unitarian Universalism. And that simply means that we don't have a dead faith, that it is constantly changing and evolving, and it comes to us through generations and generations of people that have come before, who have blazed the trail, who have set the pace, who have set examples. And those traditions for Unitarian Universalism come from lots of different faith traditions and non-faith traditions that inform what we believe and how we relate to each other and to the world. So our sources explain to a degree where we get wisdom and knowledge and where we get guidance and comfort. And we certainly need all of those in these special times. Today, we're going to start with our first source, which is worded like this: the direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. This idea really smacked me in the face many years ago. The first time I took a major trip overseas was 1995, and I went to Ukraine with a group from my church in Cincinnati, Ohio, where I lived at the time and was finishing up my doctorate and then began to teach seminary. 1995, of course, was just a few years after the fall of the Soviet Union. Ukraine at the time was in financial and social upheaval. They were a very, very poor country. I remember flying into the airport in Kyiv that looked like it hadn't been touched since the 1940s. Everything was drab. There were many things that were broken. Of course, there were no automatic arms that came out to download you from the plane. And it was a very difficult time. People didn't have much food. They didn't have much income. Their apartments that they lived in, most of them were very run down. And I remember even one occasion, somebody in our group knew someone that we were going to meet and brought a treat of a Snickers bar, you know, just a regular size Snickers bar, and gave it to that person as a gift and as a treat. Well, it caused an uproar in the community because the spoiled rich Americans came and brought this guy something very special that had meaning to them. And so we look at it like it was just a candy bar, you know, $1 candy bar probably. But to them, it represented so much more. Also during this trip, I met with a group of teenagers, and I was still doing and teaching youth ministry at the time. And through a translator, I remember asking this group, tell me about your hope for the future, now that you no longer live under communist rules and you are a democracy and you have freedom? What is your hope or your vision for your future? There was silence. This was a group of about 15 kids between, say, 15 and 25 years old. They looked at each other. And so I asked the translator, can you maybe rephrase that? And so he did. And again, there was silence. And so I said to the translator, why aren't they answering? And the translator was Ukrainian. He grew up there as well. He knew English very well. It was really wonderful to get to know. And he said, we don't know what hope is. We don't know what it means to have a vision for the future. We've never been able to do that. We grew up in a culture where I simply was going to do whatever my father did. The city we were in was a shipbuilding yard. And so the boys basically just assumed they would grow up and become shipbuilders, and the girls would grow up to become mothers and maybe work in stores or something like that. They didn't have anything like hope for the future. That was a life-changing experience for me because it helped me understand so many of the things that I take for granted here in my own life. That experience was transcendent. It made me question everything that I valued. And when I came back, I had more value in a Snickers bar. I wasted less food. I wanted to buy a gift for my kids to buy home, to bring home. So I went into one of the shops and I found a box. You might remember those little, what we called Lincoln logs. They came in a big cylinder thing, wooden blocks with notches, and you could build log cabins or whatever out of them. Well, I found something similar there, building wooden building blocks. I called them linen logs. Clever, right? Linen, get it? So, okay. But the box was a little bit beat up. And I asked the shop owner if, through the translator again, if he might have a bag or a rubber band I could put around the box. And boy, did I get a lecture about my American privilege and expectations that there would just be rubber bands sitting around. Well, he had no rubber bands. Why would he need a rubber band? You either buy it the way it is or you don't buy it. You take it out of the store the way it is or you don't buy it. I learned a lot that really changed the way that I viewed the world. Today, we are living through such a worldview changing experience. It is shaking us to our existential core. The way that we view possessions, the way that we view activities that we used to take for granted, and the way that we experience relationship is now different. The nature of relationships is different. The way that we sustain our relationship is different. If you happen to live alone right now, you may not have had any human touch in 6 weeks. If you live with just one other person, a married couple, or you're in some type of a relationship, or maybe you have a son or a daughter living with you, maybe that's the only human connection that you've had in 5 or 6 weeks. And that doesn't always go well because it accentuates all of the flaws in each of us in our relationships. Maybe you've had more conflict in the relationships with people that you're sharing a home with during this time. So what is our transcending mystery as worded in this source from the Unitarian Universalist? What is our transcending mystery right now? How are we moved to renew our spirit? The answer, according to the last part of our first source, is found in this: the openness to the forces which create and uphold life. The openness to the forces which create and uphold life. That openness right now has to be something different than it's ever been before for us. It's a different way of connecting to people, and it's a different way of connecting to nature. Those of you who come from a Christian background are certainly familiar with the phrase, "What would Jesus do?" There's all kinds of products, bracelets, hats, all sorts of things, WWJD. And the idea is whenever you're in a situation you don't know what to do, you say WWJD, and you're supposed to think about, well, what might Jesus do in this situation? I want to flip that a little bit. And I want to encourage you to ask yourself, whenever you're at home, you're bored, you're in conflict, you don't know what to do, you feel like you're going crazy, WWGD. WWGD. And that stands for, are you ready? What would Gudrun do? What would Gudrun do? Why Gudrun? Well, more than anybody else I know, she is probably affected less by this pandemic and staying at home than anybody else. The reason is that she's always had an amazing connection to nature. She's not really an extrovert. She likes being home. It's not that she doesn't like people. She loves people. She's been involved with many of our Zoom gatherings and reaching out. She delivers for Meals on Wheels. So it's not like she's a hermit, but this experience hasn't required nearly as much adjustment for her as it has for the most of it. Gudrun appreciates relationships and she appreciates Mother Earth. She's not an extrovert, but she loves family and friends. And she's actually become very good at using Zoom and participating in meetings and activities. And she has always spent time outside in nature with her plants, with animals, soaking up the world in which she lives. That's something I would certainly encourage each of us to learn more about, to use Gudrun as a model. So I've started to ask myself, whenever I feel stir crazy, whenever I feel anxious, whenever I'm just tired of the current situation, WWGD. And I go for a walk, I take our puppy out and we play outside. I look out the window or sit on the lanai and watch the birds play. And it makes a difference. WWGD. When we talk about why we are part of UUFCC, one of the words that comes up so often is the word community. I'm here because of the community. The community is what keeps us coming back. This is why this fellowship is a spiritual home to most of you. We are still a community, but we are not doing community in the same way. Our community looks differently because it's the responsible thing to do for the foreseeable future. I would encourage you to think about the root word of community. The root word of community is to commune, to be together. How are you communing now with those you love differently than you were? How are you communing with nature differently than you were? Think about the goal of communing. The goal of being a community here in this sanctuary when we come together for activities is to have a sense of belonging, but also to extend that sense of belonging to others. We want the new visitors, the new folks among us to feel like they are welcome, to feel like they are part of our family. And that idea of family is so important when I think about UUFCC. So this week, I encourage you to think about this source of our living tradition, the direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to the renewal of the spirit and the openness to forces which create and uphold life, relationships, and nature, done very differently than most of us have ever done it before. Our personal and collective transcendent experience are fundamentally different now than they've ever been. Please be renewed by your openness to new relationships in new ways with different people and with nature. And also be renewed by upholding and sustaining these ideas and each other until we can all share hugs and laughs and handshakes again. Amen. Now I invite Kay to share the closing words as soon as we get her spotlighted. All right, Kay, go ahead and unmute yourself and share, please.
This is a poem by Reverend Mary Eads, a retired congregational minister, now community minister and hospice chaplain in New Hampshire. Like the cosmic dust following the great Perseid meteor, we are the living remnants of time and all that has come to pass in its wake. briefly shining lights on the way to eternity. We are only visible to the naked eye for an instant. Take this moment to shine like the stardust you are. May the light of our time on earth shine to bless the world and each other. Shine, shine, shine.
Thank you, Kay, and shine indeed. Thank you for those words. And now it's time for us to extinguish our chalices, yours at home and me here, with the chalice that we typically share together. And now we extinguish the chalice, but not the light of hope, the fire of commitment, or the warmth of community. May those ideals shine in our lives and warm our hearts until we are all together here again. I would like to say thanks to Kay, thanks to Corey for helping direct this, thanks to all of you for your patience as we continue to learn how this works. Remember that when we're done here, we will have social hours, so you can log into that, and then you can see and chat with others. So thank you for your patience. Please remember this week to be a blessing to those you meet at the store, at the pharmacy. Those folks are under a lot of pressure. Please remember to be a blessing to anyone that you're sharing your home with during this time. And most importantly, please remember to be a blessing to yourself. Be good to yourself, extend grace to yourself. There's no such thing as perfection during this time, or really ever, but we really need that grace right now. Thank you for being here. I love you and I miss you all, and can't wait until we can see each other again. Bye-bye.